Better? Okay, I'll do it like this. No problem. So thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you everyone for being here. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff happening at DEFCON, so spending even a few minutes listening to a talk is a great honor for me. Uh, so as I was introduced, I'm Anchises. I'm a threat intel lead in a Brazilian company called Apura. Apura is a company who has something like 13 years old, focus on CTI, cyber threat intel. We have customers in Brazil, but we also start since last year having customers for around the globe as well. We have an office in Miami, by the way. So I'm also one of the founders of Besides São Paulo, this here. We do Besides every May, usually second or third week of May. This year we had 2,300 people attending the conference. And Garoa Hacker Club is our first hackerspace in Brazil. We founded it in 2010 or so. And also, proud to say that I'm a volunteer at WONSI. WONSI is the Latin America Woman for Cybersecurity, a community and the ONG that helps bring more women into our industry, to support her, to do mentoring, training, and support in general to have a more diversity in our industry. So this talk is about PIX. PIX is a real-time payment system that was created in Brazil 5 years ago, and now it's the most well-known and used payment system in the country. Brazil is one of the largest countries in the world. We maybe is between the top 10 in terms of population in the world. So we are a huge economy in Latin America. We have more than 200 million people, citizens in Brazil. I'm not talking too much about Brazil itself. My presentation must focus on PIX, but Brazil, as I mentioned, it's a third world country in Latin America. We had more than 200 million people, and we have a huge criminal activity across the country, both the traditional crime and also cybercrime. Just of a curiosity, Brazil was the second country in the world to have internet banking back in the 90s. And since then, we have cybercrime. We also well known in the security industry to have a huge and very well known virus writer community. So the criminals in Brazil, they are really good on doing banking trojans. So we are really good on this, and also mobile banking trojans for targeting mobile phones and mobile apps. And then 2020, the central bank launched PIX, start to work PIX. It was a long-term project, maybe 10 years of planning. They created the whole framework to have PIX. I will jump some slides, if you don't mind. Let me do something. I have a backup slide here that is nice. So in Brazil, all banks are connected through a financial network. This is similar to SWIFT. Do you know SWIFT network? SWIFT network is the network that connects all banks, all financial institutions across the globe. So in Brazil, we have a local network which is called the Network of the National Financial System. In Portuguese is RSFN. So it's a virtual network connecting all banks, all financial institutions. So you have the core bank in one specific bank. There's a messaging protocol, so they can send all the information to other banks. So if I want to do a transaction or to pay to make a payment, this bank, my bank, will set up all the messages to the other banks to the receiving the banking receiving the funds, and then you send the message, the payment message through this network. We also, for the smallest financial institutions, we have some IT providers, service providers, who does all the core banking, financial system stuff, and then just connect small institutions so they don't need to have their own banking IT infrastructure by themselves. Or even nowadays we have in Brazil some companies providing banking as a service, so you can have your own bank without having to handle all the infrastructure. You can just have the company providing you banking as a service. So this is a huge overall picture of the financial system in Brazil. In the central bank here, they have one global directory here. It's the SPI. It has a setup of all the people who has a aPIX account to help changing, doing the transactions. So if I wanted to send money to a friend, I will say, oh, my friend phone number is X. Then my bank will ask this database, which has the account, the other financial institution and account number. The central bank will reply to my bank, and my bank then send the transaction to the other bank. So this is a very high level overview of how the technology works. The Central Bank of Brazil, bcb.gov.br, they have all the information, including in English as well. So if you want to learn more about aPIX and the financial system, you can just go to the Central Bank website and you have a lot of information. Even better, all the manuals and requirements for the aPIX system to work and how the banks implement the rules that the banks have to follow to implement aPIX payments. It's public in the central bank website. So all the requirements, how the technical requirements. So it's easy to have access to the information. So let me be back to my presentation. That was only the backup slide. Sorry. Yeah. So okay. aPIX stands for nothing. Just choose this name, okay? It's a payment system. It's a real-time payment system. Here in US, there is the FedNow. I don't know if you're familiar with the FedNow. I'm not, sorry. But FedNow is the real-time payment systems that was created recently in US. And a few other countries around the globe also are implementing real-time payment systems. When I say real-time payment system, it means that right here, right now, I can pick up my mobile phone, open my mobile banking application, log in, and say, oh, I want to send 100 Brazilian reais to Fernando Amati, my friend over there. And in just a few clicks, he will get the money, so he can pay a bill, can do anything with the money in just 1 second. So it's instant payment for real. So it also works for payments, and not only money transfers, wire transfers, but also for payments. If I have to pay a bill, I just go to my invoice and I have the option to pay using aPIX. The money will go straight ahead in a few seconds to the other organization, and all is done. So aPIX is a protocol that was created by Brazilian Central Bank. We used to have transactions, online transactions before aPIX, but the difference, it will take couple hours or days to the money be arrived to the other people's accounts. But nowadays it's instant, in 1 second. The adoption was huge. Nowadays I would say that almost the entire population accepts aPIX. It's very interesting as well. It increased a lot the use of mobile banking. Actually, I don't know the real numbers, to tell the truth, but before 2020, before we having aPIX, I would say that something like between 50 to 60% of the Brazilian population had bank accounts. because again, we are a poor country. We have lots of people who don't even have money to buy a food, okay, even less to pay the taxes of having a bank account. So before 2020, a huge percentage of the population didn't even have a bank account. But nowadays, because of Pix, because everyone is doing transactions using their mobile phones instead just using money for real, I would say that almost 100% of the people has bank accounts and has Pix. Obviously, unfortunately, the COVID helped growing the number of people doing online transactions, because we were stuck in your house. We need to send money, so people started using mobile apps during the pandemics as well. But obviously, Pix is very important in this scenario to make people more using more the traditional banking system. So increase the mobile banking, and now is already the #1 payment in use in Brazil. Next screen I have statistics from the central bank, but just a quick explanation on how Pix works in the daily activities. I just need to open my mobile app. Obviously, for each bank, it has its own UX interface, blah blah blah. But when I open my bank application, I would say, oh, I want to do a transaction, and then I have the option to do a transaction using Pix or the traditional transaction wire transfer method that we used to have. I have the option to pay a bill using Pix or pay a bill by the traditional method that might take hours to be approved. So I will open my bank application. In this particular case, it's from Nubank, which is one Brazilian bank. You have the option, you have the screen of the Pix area in the app, and I will say, I wanted to transfer, I wanted to schedule a payment, I wanted to read a QR code to do a Pix payment. I can copy and paste the Pix key that I will tell a little bit later, or I can make a deposit to other account using Pix. So in order to run, every people must have what we usually call a Pix key, but in the Brazilian bank website they call aPIXcalypse, the English version of website. I found this name quite weird because we all in Brazil say Pix key, but the key actually is a unique identifier that matches you, something about you, to your bank account information. So it might be your email, your phone number, your ID number, like the social security number in US. We have one specific in Brazil, it's called CPF. Or also they can set up you a random key, a sequence of random numbers. So we have these 4 options. So I go to my mobile app and I say I want to set up a key. And for example, in my case, my Pix key is my mobile phone number. So if I have to ask my friends to send me money, and just say, oh, use my mobile phone number. So my friends will go to their bank application, type in my phone number, and then my bank will ask the central bank, saying, hey, this phone number belongs to a customer of me, a customer of someone else. And then the central bank will send to the bank the information, oh, this account belongs to banks A, and the bank account is number 123, for example, based on the Pix alias, the Pix key. Okay, sounds clear? And then, so everything that we do is like, hey, what's our Pix key? What's our Pix key, etc. So based on the Pix key, we do the transactions. And very, very interesting fact about this, the ID number, social security number, is a PII information. It's a private information, personal private information. is a sensitive information everywhere. Usually you can consider your email and your phone number a private information as well. So the central bank is using our private information as key identifier to be shared to everyone. So it doesn't sound good since the beginning, okay? And so people complain a lot about this, but this is how the system works, and you have nothing to do other than accept it. And as I mentioned, nowadays PIX is the most used payment method in Brazil. These statistics are from early this year, May this year, and it shows that 76% of payments are doing in Brazil by using PIX. The second one is cash, 68%. So people prefer using PIX than cash in their daily transactions. Credit card, 51%, debit card, 32%, 69%. So you see that PIX is nowadays the most used payment method in Brazil. And again, this is just 5 years since PIX started. So the adoption was really, really fast. And then the bad things that this is the good. Let's think about PIX. Just comparing PIX to the traditional transaction method that we used before. The traditional method we call TED, electronic transfer of money. And in order to do a transaction before PIX, it will take more than 1 hour. It depends on which bank. No one was expecting less than 1 hour to have the money in their destination accounts. And it only worked in business hours. So it was, if I had to transfer something to Fernando on Friday 6 p.m., he will only get the money on Monday. And that was okay by them. Okay, we are not expecting nothing different from that. But nowadays it works 24 hours by 7. Transactions take just 1 second at most. So this is why PIX becomes so popular. And actually it changes the way that we work. So we are expecting transactions to be in real time nowadays. So this is why we can, instead of using money, cash, we can use digital transactions because it happens at the same time, so whenever you need. And very interesting, I wish I had a picture. Nowadays, even the poorest people in the country, they have a bank account, they have a PIX key, and even the beggars on the street, they have a plaque with their phone number or their QR code begging for money. And it's real. I wish I had to take a picture of this. You can just go to any corner in São Paulo, the largest streets in Brazil. You see someone begging for money and showing us their PIX key. So this is very interesting. And then the evil aspects of this. First and foremost, I would say that there is no actually technical vulnerability that has been exploited as far as we know in general, okay? There might be some specific cases now and then, but it's quite rare because all the protocols are the specifications of the PIX protocol in general. They were done using the most well-known and best practices in the security industry. So it has encryption everywhere. All transactions are digitally signed. All messages use Java JWT, which is sort of message that is encrypted, has the content already encrypted. So you have all the transactions with the content of the message encrypted. On the top of it, you also have SSL, VPN, digital signatures, etc. So the protocol itself has built in a very good security way. So we don't have too much vulnerabilities in general, but of course, maybe one specific bank, one specific small financial system might have been hacked or might have some bug in their mobile app, but this is not related to the overall system, but only a specific vulnerability, a specific issue, or sometimes a business rule better written by someone that let criminals exploit some sort of vulnerability. But it's nothing related to the PIX payment itself. Including, I don't have in this slide, but I'll mention in the end, recently we have a huge fraud scheme that happened in Brazil, billions of reais, which is 100 millions of dollars were stolen from the central bank. But it's not a PIX vulnerability, but for sure they use PIX to clean out, to launder all the money. But I'll mention in the end of the presentation. But okay, in terms of PIX in general, it has been used a lot by criminals, has been exploited a lot by criminals for social engineering activities, you know. So there's a lot of misinformation, even on how it works, for political reasons as well. So the oppositors of the regime, they say, of the current president, doesn't matter which president, but the oppositors will always say, oh, you're using PIX to track every transaction that we are doing because now we do transactions online instead of paying cash. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories around that not necessarily are true, but in terms of cyber fraud, cyber crime, PIX has been exploited by using social engineering, first and foremost. Second, it make it very easy to criminals to move the funds around. So whenever they hack someone else, some person accounts, they can just send all the money for this specific person in 1 second to a multi account, and then from that multi account to another multi account. So in just a few seconds, literally, they can move all our money through different accounts. And from the bank, for the forensics, it would take ages to get a trace of where your money went to. So it makes very easy life very easy for criminals in general in Brazil, because they quickly learn that, oh, if this is easy to use for the general population, it will be easy for the criminals as well. So yes, they started using PIX to transfer the stolen funds very quickly across different multi accounts. And worse than that, this crime in general, and fraud, and cybercrime and cyber fraud, they turn 24 hours by 7. So again, before PIX, if I were a cyber criminal and I hacked into someone else's account on Friday, I would only get the money on Monday. You know, makes no sense. But nowadays they can hack us anytime, you know, during the night. And for the banks, it means that you have to have people from security, from fraud prevention teams, working every day overnight, you know. So you have to increase your team of cybersecurity and fraud analysts. You had to change your fraud detection systems to work every day. It's instant payments, so your fraud detection systems must detect the transaction on the fly, because before that you have a couple hours to investigate. It was very common in the credit card industry, because in credit card industry you might have days to detect a fraudulent transaction and then cancel the transaction. Actually, because when you do the transaction, only maybe 20 days later you have to pay your credit card bill. So you have 20 days to investigate, to cancel a fraudulent transaction. In the traditional wire transfer protocol, you have a couple hours to detect a suspicious account, investigate, and then decide to approve or cancel it. But when I do instant payments, I have to detect and to decide in real time. I have no even a second to choose between, oh, this looks real, this looks fraudulent. So makes life very easy to cyber criminals and fraudsters in general. And when the Bank Central announced that would be launched the PIX payment for us who works in the security industry, it was clear that we will have a lot of headaches in the next days or years. But it's part of the life. So the good thing about this is that we will have jobs until the end of our lives. Okay, the only good thing about this. But the truth is that it makes life very easier to criminals and to criminals in general. So in my presentation, I put the story in different waves. So when the PIX started, the first wave of fraud, the first wave of social engineering attacks was based on convincing people to supposedly create their PIX key to enable the PIX transactions, but instead of using their mobile application, using a fraudulent website. So the first wave of frauds was phishing scams for different sorts, inviting the people in general to enable PIX transactions by going to a fraudulent website. So this is an example, email that was sent to people, say, hey, welcome to PIX. In order to enable your PIX key, in order to start doing PIX transactions, you have to register yourself in your bank, and then they say the link that goes to a phishing website. Then the criminals get all personal information, bank accounts, passwords, etc. This was very common both by SMS and email, and it was actually, as I mentioned, the first wave of social engineering attacks against the population in general. And this was even before people started doing the transactions, because when PIX started, the first thing you had to do was to set up your bank account to do the transactions. So even before doing transactions, people was already being attacked by cyber criminals. And then the second wave, it was very interesting, because actually in the early beginning, the first days, first weeks of having PIX in the country, we had some bugs, because as people started using, someone figured out that, oh, this specific implementation in this specific bank has a bug, for example. So for instance, there was one bug that I remember. It was something like, if you do your PIX transaction overnight, like I will send a PIX transaction 11:49 p.m. Okay, the person will receive, and the person with the other account can refuse, and the original person will get the money back. So there was one specific bank who has a bug in their implementation, that you send the PIX at 11:49 p.m. When the other person cancel the PIX at midnight, and then the bank sends the message saying, oh, this transaction was canceled, here's your money back, they processed wrongly the messages. So the fact is that I got the money back, but the money was already in the second account. So if I send 1,000 reais, I will have my 1,000 reais back, but the 1,000 reais would be already there. So I can double my money, you know? So someone realized that and start sharing on criminal forums, hey, we have a bug in PIX that you can double your money. And in fact, it happened in different scenarios, 3 or 4 times in different banks. So in the early beginning of using PIX, it was quite common for me that works in cyber threat intel to keep it all day monitoring criminal forums. We used to see the criminals mention with them, saying, oh, this bank has a bug, let's try, let's make some money. Actually, by that time, I was working in a Brazilian bank. I was working in a Brazilian bank who is 100% online, no physical agencies. And then we used to see some colleagues of us having such problem, you know. It was, again, only the beginning because some specific banks did some specific mistake on creating the code or the process or the business rules, as the example I mentioned. It was quite funny, but also people made a lot of money. It was very curious as well because from the bank perspective, sometimes we see people, criminals exploiting such bugs, and they say, "Oh, you send $1,000. Oh, great! Now I have 2,000. Now I try $10,000." So when they try a lot of money, then we block that account. Oh, because you are doing fraud, so now we have a lot of money from you, from the criminal. Just funny story. But the fact is that in the early beginning, we had some bugs, actually, software bugs for specific banks. But all of a sudden, there was a lot of people speaking about this around, and some criminals started doing social engineering by saying, "Oh, there is a specific bug that if you use this PIX key, you send money to a bank account, and then you receive twice the money." But actually, that was the criminal PIX key. So you are sending the money to the criminal, and that's all. So a lot of people got convinced by doing this, by exploiting the people itself, and the criminals made a lot of success. It was very interesting because we saw people sharing videos on YouTube saying that, "Oh, I have this key with a specific bug that you can send money." And what the criminals did? They recorded 2 mobile phones, one with each account, and "Oh, here I have $100. Now I have 200 here and 300 here." But in the back, they were sending more money to the other accounts that you didn't see in the video. So it seemed from the video that you are double your money, but in fact you are not. So they made these videos, they shared on YouTube to convince people to try to get money for free, you know. So it was very funny. It happened a lot in the beginning. It was early 2020, 2021. And then another type of fraud happened. That was the something that pretended to be a very nice investment scheme. It's not actually a Ponzi scheme or pyramid, but it was something weird like, "Oh, if you I have a magic investment scheme." Sometimes they say that's based on crypto. Nowadays they say that's based on AI agent that keeps monitoring the best investments in the industry, blah, blah, blah. And then if you send me 200 reais, I will give you back 1,000 reais. If you send me 5,000 reais, I will give you back 11,000 reais. So they created such advertisements, they shared this on social networks, and people believe. People think that this is true. They send the money to the criminal, and they will never see the money back. Sometimes the criminals are very smart. If you send it to the criminals a small amount of money, they will give you the money back, and just to make you more greed. And then, "Oh, if I send 200 reais and I got 1,000, now I will try 5,000. And then you will never see your 11,000 again." So it happens a lot in Brazil. It happens still today, like since 2020, they are doing this. Something that happens once a while, criminals, they manage to hack into Instagram profiles of well-known people, like some personality, actor, or well-known person, and then they hack the Instagram account, and then they publish such advertisements. So if a person has, you can imagine that a person has 2 million followers, if 10 of them trust in such thing, the criminals already got a lot of money. So it still happened today. So last time I presented it, the year before, one of the famous athletes in Brazil was hacked, for example. So, and even now, to tell the truth, every weekend, when I go to my mother's house, she asked me, "Oh, your father saw advertisement of social networks talking about investment using AI and crypto that you can earn a lot of money." I say, "No, this is not real. Please don't believe." Every weekend, I have to reply the same thing to my parents. It's annoying. So it means that the people, the real people, the end user, they unfortunately they still trust in such crazy schemes. And then what happened in sequence? People are starting using Pix. Everyone started using your mobile phone with a bank account. So the criminals start targeting our mobile phones on the streets. So nowadays, it's almost impossible to stay in a street carrying your phone without being robbed. It happened, I mentioned that I'm one of the organizers of Besides São Paulo. In this edition, one of our keynote speakers was a colleague of us. I will not say his name because it has been recorded. But he works at the Brazilian Federal Police. In the day before the conference, he was in the hotel at the conference. He ordered a Uber to go having dinner with a friend. When he put his feet on the street, a person with a bicycle just go and robbed his phone. So if the criminals have no respect from the federal police, who am I? What can I expect as a normal person? Okay, so the truth is, in the last years, criminals are targeting people on the streets to steal their phones, not because the phones itself, not to resell their phones, in order to have access to the bank accounts on the phones, because everyone has a mobile phone, everyone is using the phone to do transactions. And the regular user, the people in general, they have weak passwords. They write down their passwords. Most of the time we are using our phone on the street, unlock it, because you are walking and checking your email, you are checking your Instagram. If you are driving, you have Waze in your phone. So the criminals, unfortunately this is a video that since I'm using a PDF we can't see, but it happens a lot in São Paulo, in the streets of São Paulo. When you have a lot of traffic jam, which means almost every day, every hour, when you are stuck in traffic jam, kids in general, young people in general, they just run, crash your window, jump into your car, steal your phone, and run away in few seconds. I had my phone robbed last year in the same situation. I was stopped on the traffic, and someone who I can't say, I don't know if it was a man, a woman, I don't even know the color of their clothes, of his or her clothes, because it was so fast that you can even have time to think. They just jumped, steal my phone, and run away. And my phone was unlocked because I was using Waze to go back home. So they have, I mean, it's so crazy because, for example, when they steal your phone, they open the camera because then you will not have their phone locked. So they can run with your phone unlocked until they arrive to a safe place that they have some people waiting to get your phone to start trying to recover your passwords, you know. And once they have your phone, they will try to reset all our passwords to have access to our bank accounts and then steal our money. So the truth is, since everyone is using phones, people are targeting everyone on the streets. And in order to try to help, what the Brazilian banks did and the central bank did was to create strict rules for uh, transactions. So you have lower transaction limit overnight. So if you go to your mobile bank application in Brazil, you can set up your transaction limits like, yeah, I just want to transaction 1,000 reais per day, 10,000 reais per day, and you have specific limits for the night, because usually the crime is more often during the night. And also, there's a small detail in Brazilian law. If you, we have what we call flash kidnap. People, the criminal kidnap you on the streets with a gun, go to a ATM and make you withdraw all your money from your bank. So this is what we call flash kidnap. You are kidnapped just for a few hours, the time they needed to clean up all your bank account and spend their money in credit card. In Brazilian law, if a person stay kidnapped for more than 24 hours, the penalty is too much higher. Okay, so it's not good to do a flash kidnap, but a kidnap real for real is worse. So the criminals, they just try to kidnap you for a couple hours. So this is why you have lower limits during the night, because they can't wait until the next day. Okay, but and also if you wanna change the limits, because you can say, okay, if I'm a criminal and I steal your phone, I just go to your mobile app and increase the limits of transaction. It only starts working 20 hours later. So even if I need to send Fernando more money than I have the limits, I have to set up a new limit and wait for 24 hours for security reasons. Again, because if the criminal waits for more than 24 hours, it was a different type of crime in the Brazilian criminal system. The truth is that now we have a specialized group on kidnapping. So if a person kidnaps you on the streets just to do like the flash kidnapping, and the criminal notices that you have a lot of money in your bank accounts, and to take longer to steal all your money, they sell you to a different crime gang. So they will take time, and how much time, days they need to steal all your money. So this is also crazy. But okay, and another safety measure that banks created was what we call in some banks safe places, that you can set up in your mobile phone specific places that's okay for you to use your mobile app, and in different places you have lower limits, for example. So usually in your home, your business office, it's okay for you to do transactions, but outside home, it's dangerous. So in my particular case, in the bank that I use, I have different limits for transaction at home and smaller limits transaction on the streets. And also, in my mobile app, if I open my page on that has the information about investments, if I'm outside home, it shows 0, no investments at all. But if I wanted to see my investments for real, I have to stay at home, because of the safe places measure, they only show my entire banking information if I'm at home. So for instance, if I go to Ross and spend too much money, and they need to get money from my investments to pay the credit card, I can do this now, because I don't have access to my investments from US. I have to be back home. And it does not mean that I have to use VPN and connect to a Brazilian IP address. It means that I have to be in my home network, because they have information from GPS, including GPS, the IP address, SSID. They collect a lot of information, say, oh, this is your home, okay? So it's good for safety, but it's not so good sometimes. And also, the banks, they are very smart, and they start selling insurance coverage. So I sell you insurance because if you are robbed on the streets and someone have access to your account and steal your money using Pix, you have a specific insurance to be covered in this particular case. Okay, so they always find some way to get more money from us. So again, this is quite common. This is a huge problem in Brazil. Whenever any one of you go to Brazil to visit, please don't use your phones on the streets, okay? Just go back to the hotel, catch your messages, go to a restaurant, catch your messages, but never do this on the streets. Even if you are inside a Uber or a taxi, because the criminals, they break the glass of the Uber to steal your phone, and then you will be without your phone, and the Uber driver without their glasses in the car. So you both you be in bad situation. That's I'm saying that as a funny story, but actually it's too bad. And then because of all of this scenario, criminals start needing more and more multi accounts, because since it becomes so easy to transfer money across different accounts, they need more money multi accounts to do the transactions. So there's a huge cyber criminal market for multi accounts in the country. Actually, there are a professional in the cybercrime industry that we call in Brazil the muleiros, which is the person who, the only thing that they do in their lives are creating multi accounts in banks. So they know which bank is easier to create a fake account by using fake IDs, how sort of fake IDs they have to use, like if they use the same template and different photos, or the same photo in different templates. So they're very expert on creating fake accounts, multi accounts in different banks. And they don't only create, but they spend a couple of days using the bank account to get more credit, and then to sell these accounts for a higher price in the criminal forums. So there's a huge industry for multi accounts, money multi accounts in Brazil. And not even that. Again, Brazilian is a poor country, poor population. It's quite common as well that the poor population, they kind of they rent their bank accounts to the criminal. So you need money, you don't have money to buy food for your kids, and then someone arrives in your home and say, oh, I give you $100 just to use a bank account. I do nothing wrong, but you just will receive some money in your account, and you just have to transfer the money to a different account, and that's all. And you get 10%. You get $100 per day. For people who are starving, it's a lot of money, and this happens a lot. For the bank, it means that it's a real user, a real bank account, a customer with some story in the financial institution, that all of a sudden is getting money and transferred to other different accounts. You know, so it's very difficult for any fraud strategy to detect such situation. But the truth is that, so as I said, people are needing more and more multi accounts. Criminals are selling them in criminal forums. This is one example, one screenshot of one of thousands conversations that we see every day on criminal forums. And as I mentioned, when criminal hack into someone's bank account, they transfer the money to different accounts in just 1 second. From this account, they send money to another account, and another, you know. So from the fraud team, for the bank perspective, you will just check, oh, the money from Anchises account went to, let's say, from bank A to bank B. Then the people in the bank A will call the person in the security team from bank B and say, oh, is Anchises money already there? And usually they will say, no, it's already gone. The destination account has zero balance because all the money the account received was already transferred. So there's no money to give back, and then me as a user, I will have lost my money forever. And the banks, they never trace the money. They only check for the first hope, for the first accounts. Unless you are a very famous person, like you are like a TV well-known person, Otherwise, if you're a regular person like most of us, they will never follow the money. So they will only check the first hope, the first account to receive the money. If there is something there, they will freeze the destination account and give you back whatever they have over there. But it's quite rare to have your money back. It's almost impossible. Because criminals are very smart, they know that they just have to transfer a couple times, it's okay. Usually they do some transfers to different accounts, and by the end, or they send the money to a crypto wallet, it's quite common, or they just go to ATM and withdraw the money. Actually, they have people in front of the ATMs waiting to receive a message and say, oh, now you can withdraw the money. It's very common as well when you see some criminal social profile in social networks, they are showing you a lot of money, a lot of cash, because they withdraw all the money. It's the easiest way to remove the money from the traditional financial system. Okay? And how the banks react in this scenario, the Brazilian Bank Central created an additional protocol that they call the special mechanism of return of money, MEG in Portuguese. So you can call your bank customer service and say, oh, my money was transferred to another country, I was victim of a fraud, and I need all my money back. In theory, your bank will check and try to have your funds back. In the practical terms, it helps nothing, because then there's no money left, you'll never see your money again. So it's very, very rare when this situation, when you have your money back. It's almost never happen, unfortunately, again. Then we also start having some scams. This is very common as well. If you find someone from Brazil, you can just ask the person to open their phone. It's very likely that they will receive at least one message per day like this. The bank name say, oh, you just sent a PIX transaction of such amount of a lot of Brazilian reais. In order to approve or to cancel this transaction that never happens, you have to call your bank. And this is a fake, it's a telephone number that goes to a fake call center. It's not the real one. So the traditional victim, you receive this information, say, oh, I never did a 4,000 reais transaction. So the traditional victim will call the bank and say, oh, this transaction is not true. But in fact, they will be calling the criminals, and then they do social engineering. Usually what they do nowadays, they convince you to download and to install. They'll tell the victim that their bank account was hacked, and they have to install a security model in their phone, which actually is a banking trojan. Okay. Another kind of trick that they did already, it was so funny, and unfortunately it's so stupid that people really believe it, is that they say, oh, you had a 4,000 reais transaction in your system. In order to cancel this transaction, you have to do this again, because the system will see two transactions similar, they will cancel both. And then they convince the victim to do the transaction for real. And unfortunately, the victim do this and send the money to the criminal. It's weird, but it happened a lot in Brazil, unfortunately. And another thing that is very interesting, have you ever heard about the criminal call centers in Asia, that people are victims of human trafficking, are sent to Asia, and then they are kidnapped and sent to work in these criminal call centers? In Brazil, this is a paid job. We have no one kidnapped to do this. We have these criminal call centers that work as a company that has employees that receive salary and bonus by the end of the day. So in Asia, that happens a lot of here in victims in US, and they use kidnap people, but in Brazil, no, they pay salary for that, for people working in such criminal call centers. And the only thing that banks has to do is do awareness campaigns. They do every day, every hour, different campaigns to try to make people don't believe in such sort of messages. And nowadays, it's more common, instead of sending SMS, is missing, we really got a call from the bank. And this is so insane that, to tell the truth, nowadays I receive at least 5 calls per day and such with such messages. So you receive a call, and it really looks identical to a regular call from the banks, with all the voices, all the songs, whatever they need. They have so some noisy in the background to see that you are really talking to a person in a call center. It's funny because when they call you, they say, "Oh, you have a transaction. Do you recognize it?" So it's a recorded message, like the bank usually does. And then you press 1, for example, and then you send you to a waiting line. Because if they talk to you right away, you say, "Oh, this is so strange. My bank never attend the phone right away." So we always go to a waiting line and spend 5 minutes waiting, for example. So they really do very well. So it's very difficult for the regular citizen, a regular person, to figure out that this is not real. So again, we have this sort of messages every day to everyone. And also, it's very curious. I don't have it here, but I can send, if someone send me a mail, I can send it later. Once a while, the Brazilian police, they found people with fake mobile phone antennas that whenever you pass in front of the antenna, you start receiving such SMSs. It's true. It's a huge business in Brazil. It happened a few weeks ago. There was a news on TV that they found one of these antennas, like if you were a DEFCON. They learned from DEFCON people how to do this. How to trick the phones, okay? And then we also have aPIX malware, okay? The traditional banking malware focus on mobile phones and focus on aPIX transactions. So the malware knows for each bank which are the options, which are the commands to do a aPIX transaction. So whenever a user got his phone infected, the malware, you figure out the bank that you have. When you have access to your account, the malware will in the background, you send all your money via aPIX to a money mule account. Okay? Usually, we have at least 90 different malware families in Brazil targeting mobile banking apps to do fraudulent aPIX transactions, like aPIX Stealer, Brasking, aPIX Parade, Brasdex, GoToRat, aPIX BankBot, GoPix, etc. Different families, okay? At least 9. And usually they are only from Android. So the criminals do some social engineering to convince the victims to download it, to install the app, the malware banking in their phones. So the malware bank always use the accessibility services in our phone. Accessibility is something that's built in all your phones. Is the thing that old people like me used to have letters bigger in order to see the letters in your phone, So the mobility services in our operation systems, it's a real and very useful utility, but from the criminals, it means that they have access to everything that we type and everything that we see on our screens. So the mobility services makes the application have access to the interface, to the mobile phone interface. So what this means, once the mobile phone was infected, you are using your phone as usual. When you open the bank account, the virus say, "Oh, there is a mobile app running. So they wait until you do the login, and after you do the login, the virus will publish a fake screen on the top of your bank screen, say something like, "Oh, I'm updating your security model" or something. So while you have this screen in front of you, in the back you have the mobile banking screen running, and then using the mobility services, the virus pretend that you are typing in your mobile app and saying, "Oh, I want to do a transfer to a Pix key that belongs to Fernando," and sending all the money that you have in your bank account. And then it just do a Pix to a criminal account. While you have your phone infected, you are seeing a fake screen in front of you. So this happens a lot. This is a real nightmare nowadays. It's funny also because Brazilian criminals, I think, I'm almost sure that they were the first ones in the world to do such sort of virus that infect the phones, use the accessibility feature, exploit the accessibility feature, and also they do what we call ATS, automatic transaction systems. So you don't need to have someone doing remote access to your phone. It's all automatically. So the virus has already the information of the destination accounts. They just wait until you open the application and start doing the transactions for the criminal. So it's all automatic. And this is very common in Brazil, as I mentioned, even nowadays. And again, every day you have different families, different versions, etc. But then there's no problem. My bank has a second authentication factor. I have to show my biometrics information. In such case, the virus just change the screen and show you the mobile authentication screen, saying that, "Oh, in order to finish the supposed update, you have to just re-authenticate yourself." So the end user will believe that he's just doing authentication to finish the update, while in fact it is the authentication to approve the transaction of all your money that you have. And then this is something that happens recently, like 6 months from now, becomes very common. Do you remember that the transaction, the return mechanism that the Bank Central created that makes no difference at all, doesn't work because the criminals already moving your money away and there's no way to recover? Criminals learn how to exploit this as well. So there's a new fraud in town. That is, the criminals send you money, send you a Pix money via Pix, and then calls you, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did a Pix by mistake. It was a key very similar to my friend's. Can you send me the money back?" And you, as a good person, a good citizen, okay, I will send you the money back. The trick is that the criminal asks you to send the money to another account. Because if you send to the original account, it's okay. But if you send it to a different account, so I'm the victim, I receive a Pix from Fernando, and Fernando called me and convinced me to send the money to JP, which is right here. So I got 1,000 reais, I will send to JP 1,000 reais. What Fernando will do? He will call the bank and say, "Oh, I was victim of a fraud." The fraudster will call the bank and say he was victim of a fraud. And then the bank will cancel the original transaction. So the fraudster will have the money back. But they already sent the money to a third person. So again, my money is back to the criminal, and the criminal got my money again. So the criminal got twice the value of the cent, you know. And even worse, for my bank, I'm a criminal because I receive a fraudulent transaction. So I will have my bank account blocked, freezed, you know. And there's a different version of this fraud that they sell items for you. They deliver the item. So for example, it happened to a friend of mine a few months ago. He was selling his phone. He agreed to meet the person who was buying the phone on the street. So the person did the PIX transaction to pay the phone in front of him. He received the money. He gave the person the phone, and they both walk away. During the night, the buyer, they send a message, they contact the bank and told the bank that it was a fraud. The bank canceled the transaction, and my fraud lost the phone and the money. And my friend's bank account was frozen because he was suspected of a fraud. So now you can even sell your stuff online because it's dangerous, you know? And this is true. This has happened a lot in the past 6 months or so. Banks are doing awareness campaigns nowadays to convince people that this is not real, to take care, to never send money back to a different account, just your original one. If you have any doubts, call your bank, make the bank solve the situation, but never transfer your money to a different account that you don't know. And this is happening, as I mentioned, nowadays is a new trick in town. And we have more cases. We have people create fake receipts because you go to a merchant and say, "Oh, I paid you. He's my mobile app saying that I send you the money, and I want the merchant," and they use this to do frauds in the retail. We have phishing because one way to share your PIX key is by using QR codes. So criminals create QR codes with different keys. It was funny, sort of funny, sorry. During the pandemics, some well-known artists started doing live presentations online and have a PIX QR code to send donation to some organization that need money during the pandemics. Some criminals, they retransmit the live via different channel and promote this channel with a fake QR code, sending the money to a different account. It happened a lot during the pandemics in Brazil. Other thing that we have, and didn't mention in my presentation, is like the leak of PIX keys. So once a while, criminals manage to attack some usually small financial organization, have access to the database of PIX keys and sell or share this online. It happened 12 times in Brazil last year. Every time it's a couple hundreds PIX keys, and again, PIX keys are also PII information, so it's not something that is just okay to be leaked. But I did not mention in my presentation. I can leave it for next year. And that's all that I have, but as I mentioned, just as the last story to share with you, in the last day of June, early July, we had a huge fraud in Brazil that a criminal managed to attack one of these technology providers in Brazil who provide bank services to small financial organizations. So in just 4 hours, from Sunday to Monday, overnight, who works here on Monday 4 p.m.? I hope no one. I hope we are all sleeping on a Monday 4 p.m. But a group of very skilled Brazilian criminals, they hacked in this technology provider, had access to their core banking and core message transfer protocols, and were able to inject fake transactions, stealing money from the banks and sent to criminal accounts. In just something like, actually 8 hours or so, during the night, they managed to transfer more than $300 million in frauds. Do you remember Lazarus Group? Back in 2020 or so, Lazarus Group managed to hack a couple of banks across the globe. The most famous one was Bank of Bangladesh. So they hacked the Bank of Bangladesh. They had access to the SWIFT system, and by using the SWIFT system of Bank of Bangladesh, they transferred a couple $1 million overnight, and then they did the same attacking other small banks across the globe. Bank of the Chile was targeted by that time as well. I think it was 2021. It's a kind of similar situation. They hacked in the core banking system, and from the core banking system, they inject fake transactions in the financial system, and then they manage to send money to criminal accounts. And again, it was a lot of money. It was 8 banks were targeted. Only one went public, so we don't know nothing about the 7 other banks who was targeted. But for the only one that went public, it was more than $200 million. Actually, I would say $150 million was stolen from just one bank in one night. And again, there was nothing related to a specific fraud in the ecosystem, but they hacked into a specific company. And how they hacked? They bought a credential from a developer, junior developer of this bank. They paid $1,000 to have access to the corporate credentials for one employee, one system developer's junior developer. And using this credential, they managed to have full access to the system. They pay extra $2,000 to this person to type in specific commands in the company, probably very likely to enable remote access to the criminals. And then this criminal organization managed to do a couple 100 million transactions overnight. It happened just last month. It was a huge scandal in Brazil. The federal police, the banks are still investigating. Investigation is still under progress. They only managed to arrest the developer who held their account so far, and no one knows yet who was behind the attack. And so, as I conclude closing remarks, I don't know about how I'm good. So the truth is, we are having real-time transactions being implemented all around the globe. So my talk is just to let you know that life is not easy for us who works in computer security after we have online transactions. So we have more work to do. We have to be more cautious. It's hard to detect and to stop the real-time transactions. It's not easy. It's different. It's a different threat scenario. It's a very different threat scenario from the technology and for the social perspective as well. Okay, cybercriminals, they learn very quickly, faster than us, so they are always ahead. So my general message is we have to take care. As a professionals, computer security professionals, fraud prevention professionals, we have to be aware of the threat scenario. And that's all that I have. My contact information. With such weird name, it's very easy to find me on social networks. If you know how to Google, just Google for Anchises. It's easy to find. Usually, I'm Anchises BR in social networks. Actually, in LinkedIn, it's just Anchises, but other social networks are Anchises BR. As I mentioned, I'm one of the founders of Besides São Paulo. You are all invited to attend Besides São Paulo next year. And if you are a woman, if you live in Latin America, you are invited to know more about WONSI, the Latin America Women for Cybersecurity community. If we have time for questions, I'm available. If you don't have time, I will still be available over there. And if you have questions, I have some giveaways. If you don't have questions, any questions? Giveaway? I have actually 2. This one, that one's for Leanne. I have 2 anti-RFID card pockets, you know, I don't know how to say this in English, and one large size t-shirt from Besides São Paulo. Question or just want to give away? Question, question. Question, no question.
So I'm working in cyber fraud. Um, I used to have a meeting with the principal banks in Brazil, but I saw them a little bit lost about to embrace this and the new way, not the traditional way of the fraud. Is, so, see, fraud happens, I'm going to take care of this, but it